Welcome to West of Tulsa. I'm CJ Ward, and we are broadcasting from Ventura, California. And we have most of the crew here. We got Dan at the controls. Gabe is here as well.
Yup.
And I'm going to say this. Gabe yelled at me last time because I didn't do it. But we're going to give our tip line right off the top because, just so you guys know, nobody ever watches deep enough into our show.
Not nobody.
You do.
Yeah, well.
to know our tip line. So we're going to do it at the top of the show at this point. So we have a tip line. Go to our website, westoftulsa.com, go to the tip line page, fill it out, send it back to us because we would love to hear your story, maybe even have you here in studio. And you have no excuses because the two gentlemen joining us now have come in all the way from New Hampshire. Now think about it. You can't be any farther from Ventura in the continental U.S. than New Hampshire.
Not much.
Not much. We got David and Cole Manz from the Manz Motor Company, and they showed up in a really cool ride. We like to ask people what they drove when they came here, so please tell us, what did you guys drive to come to West of Tulsa?
So we have a Land Rover Defender 6x6 with the LS3 engine in it.
It's a beast.
Yeah, it's a fun car.
Yeah, great car. Thanks for bringing it.
For our viewers that don't know what 6x6 means, can you explain what that means?
Yeah, so there's 3 axles on it, 1 in the front and then 2 in the back, and it's 6-wheel drive.
Yeah, six-wheel drive.
And you guys built these things from scratch.
That's right.
Wow. How did you get into that?
It's a good question. I'm asked by a lot of people at our car shows, especially parents with kids that have an aspiration to build cars. I've always tinkered, and it's come from my grandfather, and I've always loved to build things. And I was fortunate enough to be able to retire early and combine that with Cole went to college and hated it. Just school, another 4 years of school wasn't a match. And so I
can relate to that, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we took the opportunity and we put our heads together and we said, well, what are we going to do? And we had built Defenders, Unimogs, Mercedes Unimogs, Toyota Land Cruisers before together for family and friends. And we thought about what we really wanted to do with his whole life and the rest of mine. And we took a trip. We started planning. We knew we wanted to be in cars. We wanted to rebuild them. And we weren't quite sure which ones, but we started to narrow in on Defenders. Probably because, 1, we love them, but 2, they were popular. We didn't have to educate people on what they were. We took a trip to England. We met with a ton of people, and we met with 2 brothers who have been doing this, I don't know literally, but I think so, since they could walk. Their father had started a Defender shop, and I just, right there, I knew it. The trip with my son, being with him for that period of time alone, which, we're a family of 5. My wife and I used to take the kids on trips, but to be with just your son or just any one of your children, and that was the moment.
You knew it. You knew it.
That was it. I was going home. I was quitting. I was retiring, and we were going to do this. And so at that point, I knew it, and we put the kind of everything in motion to start doing this.
Just go for your passion, right? It's a passion project.
Yeah, I figured life's, I maybe I'm a cliche, but life is too short, and really saw this as an opportunity to build something for my son and to do something I've always just wanted to do.
Uh-huh. And you were on that trip, and did you feel the same way as you guys were going around checking out Land Rovers?
Yeah, we were there building our supply chain and making relationships there. And it kind of all fell into place. And by the time we got home, we're ready to do this.
That's exciting.
Well, have you always been into the cars and stuff like that since you were a kid? I would imagine since your dad was...
Yeah, as long as I could remember.
Yeah, okay.
He was working on them, yeah.
It'd be weird if you weren't into it and all of a sudden, we're going to England. It's like, oh, I'm into it now, Okay, got it.
You mentioned you said your grandfather?
Yes.
Was he connected to the car world somehow? Did he?
No.
He just had a passion for it.
No, he was, so legend has it, or family folklore has it, that he invented the first riding mower.
Oh.
Now, whether whether that's true or not, I don't know. And I'm making no claims against someone who, Toro or any company. But I guess very early on, he had jiggered together the parts and of something that was moving that could cut grass. He was always like that. It just anything you wanted done, he could do. He had a workshop in the basement. They lived in an old colonial house, and it was just filled with things. A whole workshop, all the tools and
tinkered, mechanical.
Yeah, and I've always enjoyed it.
Well, and what we saw you guys drive in today could certainly cut grass.
It could
cut
tall
a lot
grass.
of grass.
Could.
Yeah, tall grass.
Mow through it.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Thank
there's
you.
no doubt about that. The vehicle, if you brought it to a Cars and Coffee anywhere in Southern California, correct me if I'm wrong, but you'd end up with a big crowd around you.
Yeah, you don't see those too often.
No.
You don't. The part that was interesting to me is that this car, or this truck, I should say, when I asked David and Cole, how did you guys put this together? Because the bed's longer,
Right.
and obviously the axles, but apparently Land Rover made these before,
Yes.
and you guys were able to source this build with factory OEM parts, so it's not all a bunch of custom fabricated metal, right?
Right.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's all factory Land Rover parts. Other than the differential for the middle axle, it sends power to the far rear, is completely custom.
Mm-hmm. And then obviously the motors, it's an LS, GM motor, so it's not the same. Was that something that you guys wanted to do? Or was that just decided to because the engine wasn't up to mustard, or?
I guess honestly, it was both. It was we wanted to use that engine. We had used it before, and it had the power that we needed. And frankly, that car of its day came with a variety of engines, but they were all, the early ones that we can import into this country all came in with diesel engines in the low hundreds of horsepower, and when I say low, like 100 horsepower. And so that really wouldn't move it. It's a 6,000 pound vehicle. So it's about a couple thousand pounds more than a stock 110 wagon that you would see on the road. And the gas engines had a little more horsepower, but really nothing to allow that car to move the way we wanted it to. The other thing it enabled is we could use a modern transmission. And, excuse me, we've gotten the feedback that for certain buyers, we have a certain list of buyers that like a modern feel to it. They really like the envelope that they're in. They like the feel of it, the way it makes them feel. But they don't want whether it be automatic or standard, they don't want the old feel of a standard automatic clicking into place, or a standard and fooling around with the gate that may be a little funny to get the car into gear. This one is push button.
I noticed that right in the center console, right in the middle.
So you just push
boom, boom,
boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
So it's not a car for the you're not like, and I love fast cars, and I love standards. But it's not that's not the feel we were giving.
Yeah.
We were letting you focus purely on what was outside. And frankly, to be honest, for people to enjoy what they were seeing.
Mm-hmm.
And so we put that together, and Cole designed the entire car. And
good job, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
It came out, you I guess you have to acknowledge, or you should acknowledge, when you have actually done what you wanted to do.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And we did it.
So it's an LS3.
That's correct.
What kind of horsepower does it crank out?
It does 480 horsepower.
Okay, so that's enough to get it going. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it had a nice rumble when you guys drove in?
Yeah.
We knew you were here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I feel like that the way it sits is like the sound goes with that, because like obviously you're not blending in with a vehicle like that, so why sound like you're gonna blend in?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, sure, somebody might put an EV motor and something like that, but what's the point? I mean, nothing's big
Yeah.
and making a statement, might as well make it with that engine. So I
Yeah.
think the engine's perfect for it.
Thank you.
You know, the other thing that's really interesting about your story is, I mean, yeah, okay, we've seen the truck and it's beautiful. It's where you are, I mean, where you're building these. Talk a little bit about, because I think this is a great part of the story.
Don't give them the address.
No, I won't give it
Keep-
out.
keep these guys
We don't
on
want to
low
get them in
pro.
trouble. But get them in trouble with code enforcement or anything.
Exactly.
But talk about the property where you guys are building these.
So probably 12 years ago, we bought a property west of us where we live in New Hampshire. And it was always intended as, at that time, I probably, that's where I started thinking about I wanted to do something on my own. I wasn't sure at the time what it was. Was it a brewery? Was it a distillery? And the town was actually in full support of that.
We would be too.
Believe it or not, and the neighbors were lining up with the resumes. But the timing never worked out. The opportunity wasn't there. So I knew I bought it for the intention to do something. The property has a barn, and we've renovated, so we have heat, running water, all those necessities. And so we slowly were fixing it and renovating it to meet some purpose. And it's just the confluence of, the merging of all of these different things of, we were working on that, college not, being great. I was enjoyed my career, but it wasn't life fulfilling for me. So all of these things kind of came together, and it is weird to think back. I had no plan, by the way. There wasn't a plan to say in 12 years you will do all of this. There was no
Part of what makes it fun, though, isn't it?
I guess.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people just thought, what the hell is he doing? Frankly, you're not working on the farmhouse that's there. You're working on the barn. Okay, why? And so I do, and how people slide in those comments at cocktail parties of, what are you doing up there?
Shenanigans.
Yeah, and but my wife knew I was always there, and so anyway, we renovated a barn. We're in a barn, old horse barn. We had the ceiling of the first floor used to be at 7 feet, or actually lower because I ducked, so I would say it was probably 6 feet, and so we had that raised. And we put in a large garage door so we could get any car in. I think the garage door is, 12 feet wide, 20 feet high, that kind of thing. And so we just bring them in one or two at a time. And that's all we build, is that we build one or two cars at a time.
What kind of staff? What kind of staffing?
You've met the staff.
That's
Just
it.
us
Just
two.
you two.
Yep.
Wow, that's impressive.
That's yeah. We we thought for building with family and friends, we weren't going to hire people. We were just doing it fun weekends, nights. But when we turned it into a business, we said, well, why are we going to change our model? This is what we know. We feel we build a great product. We know the car inside and out. I'm not worrying about if someone has, and inevitably something goes wrong with these cars, that I know exactly what has been done. And that knowledge didn't leave with someone.
Right.
And, for us right now, that's a good thing. We like it. We put our time into them. If we have to travel as we're doing now, we prepare for that. But we enjoy just handcrafting these. If people are looking for a cookie cutter Defender and looking for mass, options to choose from, although we can provide the options, we're really focused on exactly what someone wants. So we built a soft top for a gentleman in Upper Michigan. And it was down to the thickness of the leather that we were discussing. And that was great because we were seeing how it would work in different parts of the car. Ultimately, we found that it wouldn't work in a different part.
I was about to say, this is a learning process for you too, as people come to you with ideas. And
some of it was.
That would
and
make sense.
We had the leather manufacturer actually custom dye a thinner leather so we could use it in certain parts of the car because the car is, if anyone's been in a Defender, they're very tight, quite tight. And so the tolerances to allow another, 16th of an inch for a piece of leather, which sounds ridiculous. It's not there. And so you do have to understand how each product or each material fits within the car, because you can end up, creating a car and you can't shut the doors, or, everything, the dashboard won't fit together.
And we were talking when you guys first arrived, you were describing your process, and I said, well, it almost sounds like what Singer does with Porsches.
Yes.
You take a Land Rover, a basic one, and you strip it down and you build it back up again from scratch.
Yeah.
So that's what you guys are doing.
Yeah. We take every Defender, except for our restorations of North American spec models, which were certain models that or certain vehicles that they imported through 93 through 97, which people want to keep very original. Other than those, we will strip the vehicle down to its chassis. And we were talking a little bit before. Someone has asked, we get a question, right? You buy a car, you spend a lot of money. Well, what was its history? What's its restoration history? And usually behind that question is it a piece of junk or not? And
Sure.
right, is there Bondo all over the place? Have you band-aided things together that are just going to break on me? And it's a hard question for me to answer. Well, it's easy for me to answer. I don't think they like the answer all the time, but I say it doesn't matter, because the car comes completely apart, and we inspect every part in that car. So if the chassis is good, we'll use it. We'll go get it galvanized to make sure that mostly the inner rails are protected, and then we'll build from there. And so every part in that car, every fastener is new. Every part on the car is either new, rebuilt, or refurbished. And if we look at each other and say, should we keep this part, then it goes. We've made a conscious decision that if we're considering that, then that's not a part we want in the car.
If you're even questioning it, right? It's not worth keeping.
It's not. Yeah, it's not what we want to give to our clients. We want to give them the best Defender that they can get that meets their lifestyle. And if that means a new part versus the other part, we always look at each other and go, well, why would we even use that part then?
Yeah.
It has to be perfect. And so essentially the car is, you can't say you're building a classic Defender. And now I have to caveat that or qualify that because of the new Defenders, but the new Defenders. But we want it to be as close to new as possible. And that is what we're building. And, for some people, that is what they want.
Oh.
So you guys talk about like leather for interior for a certain client, and obviously paint. Are you guys doing all that in house? The paint and the interior. Are you farming some stuff out, or how's that work in part of the operation?
Yeah, so we have for our upholstery, we have a local craftsman 20 minutes up the road that does all our leather work, all our interior work, and then we work with a shop that's probably 5 minutes away from us. That paints classic cars.
Okay.
And he's been teaching me how to do auto body and paint and stuff. So that's been a lot of fun.
That's funny
to learn.
because that was the next question I was going to roll into, because it's been a huge topic of discussion on our Instagram page, where we had a previous guest talk about these restoration trades are dying.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, a lot.
So painting a car, and goes back to the discussion about having a paint shop in California versus somewhere else, where a lot of these people can't do restoration jobs or just stick to insurance work because it's more cost effective and more profitable. Yeah. But the trades, less and less people are doing it. So when I hear somebody young saying, "Oh, I'm learning this," so it's great that you segue to that, because I feel like that's an important thing to keep going. So that's why I asked, are you guys doing a lot of this stuff yourself? You're not currently, but it sounds like you're about to do the work yourself. So you have more QC over everything, right? And offer your client something a little bit better product because you guys have all the control over it, right?
Yep. Yeah, we so the upholsterer is a third generation upholsterer. His family's been doing it for I forgot how long Randy's been doing it, but it's been a long time. His father's father started. He can't find anyone to work.
Yeah, no one wants to get into it.
Wow.
So we, and thankfully he's on the younger side, and relative to some of these tradesmen, and so we work with him, and we're very thankful. He just does a stellar job. We actually get a lot of calls, especially at car shows. Would you do our interior for us?
Wow.
And we just don't have the time, and frankly, it's horrible, but I don't want them taking his time.
Sure. Fair enough.
So,
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So that's the upholstery piece. The painting piece, we just have a great guy. He is just down to earth. Frankly, I'm not sure. I forget how we met him.
It's a while ago.
It was a while ago. And so Bill has been a father figure to Cole when it comes to this trade. And I think he's bothered by, what you were mentioning, Gabe, that people aren't going into the trade. And he has a student now who's helping him, but he stopped all of his collision work and now does just restoration.
Wow.
Well, that's opposite of what,
yeah.
that's opposite of what we've been hearing.
Yeah.
He got fed up with the insurance companies.
Okay,
Wow.
that's interesting.
See, we've also heard that too.
Yeah.
People complain about how the insurance companies are squeezing the shops, which is in turn squeezing the customers.
That's right.
Yeah.
And he's tired of it. And he's at the age where he can be tired of it.
Mm.
And he's on a slow glide path.
He's probably doing what he wants to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
He is. And so he's, selfishly for us, Cole's learning, it's like boot camp, he's
That's awesome.
learning how to do all of this, because we can see very clearly that is the next thing we will bring in. And those are the only two things we don't do ourselves. Our paint, we didn't want to, we didn't have the experience in that, and it is just an art.
Oh yeah.
And upholstery, just same thing.
Yeah.
And eventually, I can see us having to go into upholstery and leather.
Yeah. I mean, it's such an awesome thing to, especially when you guys are coach building. Really, you're building cars from scratch. You're just starting with a chassis and a body that's already done, and you guys are probably refinishing it. But picking up the interior or upholstery and the painting thing, it's so refreshing to hear somebody like yourself, as young as you are, picking that up, because I feel like, that's always going to be a thing, with older cars, especially, and picking up that trade, I think, is very, very important. So
I'm curious. So if it's just the two of you, how long does it take you from beginning to end to crank out just one vehicle?
So one car, like 5 to 7 months, depending on
that's
shipping
fast.
times.
That's pretty
and
good.
Stuff. Yeah.
I was expecting to hear longer.
But you guys only do one car at a time.
1 to 2, yeah.
So you guys can stay on it every day.
Yes.
Basically.
Yeah, exactly.
And then do you what's the how you working with your clients? They obviously have some preferences, but overall it's a man's car that you guys are building. So is there a line between what the customer wants and what you guys would do? Like, it's like, I want I want it to be pink with cowhide seats and
or
fuzzy
machine gun turrets on the side.
Yeah,
of
I
it.
mean, is that something you guys will do, or you guys will only stay within a certain realm of design?
We'll do whatever the client wants.
Okay, but so long as it's the chassis that you guys are.
As long as it's a Defender.
Got it.
And I find that whatever choices they make, although we haven't done pink. So
Hopefully you don't
there
have
you go.
to.
New idea.
No offense to pink, but no.
no offense to pink. I like it pink. But gee, you got me thinking there, Gabe. Just how does that look?
We can't wait to see your pink
Mary
Defender when
Kay.
you roll it out next year.
We're going to see
Bring
Mary
the picture,
Kay.
pink 6x6.
Yeah. Boy, you really threw me with that one. In a good way. But in the end, these things always look like Defenders. Some people put body kits on them to make them look wider, have a more aggressive stance. If someone wanted to do it, I think they look nice. It's not my preference. But from an exterior standpoint, we do lifts. We don't lift the car. We do certain wheels, tires, other accessories for the Defender. And there are also companies that won't do any of that. They keep them, traditional.
Mm.
In the interior, we will do 2 different dashboards that Land Rover made. We have not. I shouldn't say we will not, but we have not, and we have not provided the option to change that. Do a completely different. In part, mostly because these cars are, and you asked the question earlier, and Cole answered, and I didn't say anything. I kind of lost the thought, but these cars are made, and I said the tight tolerances, but in addition, everything has to fit where it has to fit. There really isn't a lot of room to freeform with, well, I want a new dashboard. And I guess, you can, and I have seen them, so I'm not stupid to say that you can't figure that out. But you really are given a very specific space in which you can do everything. And it's, and I feel it's different than a lot of cars, only because the older cars just have so much room in them. There's so much room in the interior. You can take from this, borrow from this, and you can in the Defender. The heat comes in one spot. Now, you could move it, and I'm not saying that people haven't probably, but I start to go, why?
Yeah.
And so it's things like that, in the 6x6, I guess where I was going with that is that car outside is no different than any other Defender up to its rear door. Everything is at its same mounting spot. Everything uses all the same fasteners, all of the same pieces. All we've done is kind of trick the car, if you will, into thinking, or we've used the same mounting points and we've duplicated it with another axle. So we just kind of cut it, allow, that additional axle to come in, and then we use the stock rear on it. So if you don't do that, then you're re-engineering that car.
Yeah.
And I think for big off-road enthusiasts, that's fine. I don't like to play with my client's safety. And I'm not, Cole and I are not engineers, and really don't feel that we should be changing those parts of the car that would substantially alter it from being a Defender. I think in the end,
there's a reason why people like them.
Well,
they love them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, it's almost who am I to do that?
Yeah. Sure. So it's almost like you're kind of paying homage or respect to the original car being built a certain way, customizing it to your client's tastes, but still it is a Defender at the end of the day.
In the end, it's a Defender.
Yeah. I think that's the part that kind of drew me in the most, is that everything you did to make the 6x6 was with OEM parts. I think that's so cool. You didn't have to fabricate any of these things or hope that the guy who fabricated did a good job. It came from the factory. If you don't like it, talk to Land Rover.
Right. And with the 6x6, we use 2 factory rear tubs to make the bed. It's obviously longer.
Mm-hmm.
You can't buy that long tub from them, but we do use factory parts in putting it together. We do get comments of, and I've seen, I guess I've fallen into the trap of looking at what haters have posted, and one person was, well, you'll never be able to repair it, and you'll never find the parts. And there is one part that is made only by one company in this world, and that's the 6x6 diff. And even then, you could find another one. But every other part is either factory or, aftermarket part that is just out there with every other Defender. So it really isn't using a lot of crazy esoteric parts. It's using the same parts, just using in slightly different ways.
Oh, you bring up sorry.
No, I was going to ask Cole, because it sounds like you do a lot of the hands-on with this. What is your favorite part of the vehicle to work on as you're working on it?
As we're building it, probably getting the rolling chassis together, dropping the engine in, putting the axles on, building the differentials, and building the axles.
It's kind of like seeing it take shape. Right?
Yeah,
It's like,
exactly. Yeah, that's my favorite.
That makes
part.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was going to go back to the whole parts thing. Do you guys find it difficult to source parts, especially OEM parts, since it's such an older vehicle, or anything? Are people making repops of this stuff, or?
So it depends on the part.
Yeah, during COVID was really difficult.
Sure.
Everything was
Yeah,
difficult.
that was horrible. But
Yeah.
right now it's not too bad. There's a lot of aftermarket companies popping up for like body panels and stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
some work, some don't. And we found the ones that are honestly better than OEM parts. So it's not bad finding parts for the cars.
It's a sign of popularity when you start seeing that many aftermarket parts showing up. But you're right. You got to sift through it to find out which ones will do the job the way it needs to be done.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, we've seen it. I we haven't been in it long enough to say we've seen it all, but we've seen a lot.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter the company. Land Rover's part, another company's part,
Yeah.
they've all screwed up.
Mm.
We had a part of a tub. We were replacing the left rear, what we would call a quarter panel here, in a car, but it was the left side of the outer tub, a rear tub, and its supports were put in the wrong place. And that's important for us because we're doing different things with seatbelts on them in the rear, and they were in the wrong place.
Wow.
And I went back to the retailer that we got it from because, yeah, it happens all the time for them.
Oh, wow.
And so it's not just, and I don't say that to dig at Land Rover. I say it in a way to say that it is amazing what, imperfections that you find even in the, the original company. But we have found, as Cole was mentioning, we have found a number of suppliers that are seeing that so the Defender went out of production in, I'm losing it, 2016, I think. It was in the United States, we only got them from 93 through 97. But for the world, they got them through 1983 to 2016. And by and large, they did not change parts. Now, there are some, so people listening, I'm aware that there were some wholesale changes. But by and large, it did not change. And so you do have that mass market of people from 83 to 2016. That's a big time window of a lot of vehicles that want parts. But two, and I'm not an authority on the rules of keeping parts around, but I've heard anecdotally that you keep them around 15 years, that the company is, obligated to provide those. So you can quickly do the math that in 2031, Land Rover can say goodbye. And in some of those parts actually got stopped making in 2006 when Ford was owned Land Rover.
Mm.
So those are starting to go away already from the factory.
Mm.
That was a monumental shift in the Defender. It's probably, I think it's the biggest shift in the Defender from a parts perspective. In 2006 when they tried to modernize it, new dashboard, engine, things like that. And the Puma era, which it is referred to, is that car is, although a lot the same, it shows the most difference in any kind of, what would you call that, revamp or restyling since 1983. So my point is the parts are disappearing from the factory. And so I think companies, smart people in the world, they see that people want them. It's a popular car. They were made for a long time. You can make a front fender, we would call, so a front wing for the car, and it's the same for all of those cars. So why shouldn't we make them ourselves?
Yeah.
So there are a lot of people, and to Cole's point, we're finding they're starting to make them better.
Yeah.
Both quality from a consistency standpoint, but also the material. And the example, and it's kind of a silly example, but we just used a tub that has a millimeter thicker. So most of the tub is 2 millimeters, the aluminum, and we found someone who uses 3. Now, if you think about the percentage, huge, 50% thicker.
Yeah.
Weight and
Yeah. But
fitment.
boy, it fits like a glove, but it's rigid.
Mm.
And it won't bend as much, and it's not. They're actually pretty fragile cars. They're not all aluminum, but the skin is pretty much all aluminum, so it can dent easily.
Yeah.
And
Any stress fractures if you don't get a little bit of flex in them? If they're too stiff, have you had that problem? No,
we haven't seen that.
Okay.
That'll be. It's an interesting question as Land Rover does drop the parts. If people try to, we were talking about they're trying to innovate, but they're not using the original parts. So does it?
Do you guys ever hear from Land Rover about what you guys are doing? Have you heard from the
No.
company?
No.
No. Okay, that could be a good thing.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man, these guys are making better vehicles than we are in the U.S.
I equate it to the anecdote that I've heard of Bud spills, more beer than the craft brew industry. So I don't think we do enough to even concern them.
Well, and I was thinking maybe more a compliment, like, hey, like what you guys are doing. I would.
Well, I cannot credit it to us, and I'm not. But I have seen that they saw the popularity of people taking these old Defenders and restoring them, and they've started. And I'm not very familiar with this part of it. Are you? They did it themselves. They did a company-owned restoration business.
Oh, and a lot of big manufacturers are starting to do it. Porsche's done it. Mercedes
exactly.
done it.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, basically, you can send them an old Land Rover, whatever it is, and they'll strip it down and rebuild it factory, and you get the credit for it and everything. And
Can you tell us a little bit about who your customers are? I'm really curious. Like, what kind of person? You guys must know your demographics pretty well because you're so small, and you have a relationship with each customer.
Yep.
It's not just comes in over the internet, let's build it. You
Yep.
know, tell us a little bit about that. I'm curious.
Our customers are most of them car lovers, and probably all. We have billionaires that use these cars, and actually, one of my favorite stories is that we have a customer who has a car collection that would rival, I believe, anyone in the country. And he wrote to us and said the cars used the most in his whole collection.
Wow.
And in fact, it doesn't sit in the car garage. It's in the garage.
it's not posing. It's out in the road.
It's out and it works.
That's
Its
nice.
top gets off. Tops comes off right. Actually, we just heard from his mechanic. Top came off the other day, and it won't go on until winter. And he's
That's awesome.
and
Wow.
so they use the vehicles. Others, a lot of so in New England we have Cape Cod, Nantucket, and Martha's Vineyard, which I can't compare to here. So maybe you can help me on your areas that are
Napa Valley?
Orange County?
Orange,
I don't know.
That's
I don't know. That's a
they're
good
very
question.
seaside vacation.
La Jolla.
Oh, La Jolla, yeah.
La Jolla.
Oh, yeah,
we do it.
okay.
Sure. Dana Point.
Santa Barbara, maybe.
Santa
Yeah, Santa
Barbara.
Barbara. Yeah, Santa Barbara
Yeah.
sounds.
And they're clients that just want to use it occasionally when they're at that house, and they want something that they can go out with, and it's fun. It's usually not a daily driver for them, because they want something different. That's the attraction of the car, that it is something different. It looks different. They have plenty of cars. It's that it gives them the feeling of this kind of iconic 4x4 without having to get overly dirty. And for us that's important because we service all of our cars, and if there's any minute problem, we fly to our client and we fix them.
Oh, wow.
Because if I think about it, if it were me, if I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on a car, I expect it to work. The reality is Land Rover did not build these to a specification that they are working as well as modern standards. And and we use the same parts that they were built with. So we don't claim to make the parts any better than they were used. and they do break, and so we just fix them, and that kind of, I'm kind of going around your question, not talking about specific clients, but that's our client that, you know, man or woman wants a car that's different, wants to use it around town, but not all of the time.
And built to their taste.
Built, yeah. And we like to say built exactly to the lifestyle.
Okay, yeah.
You know, we build soft tops for people that are in beach communities that want to top off, like I was mentioning, for people that are wanting to use it more in ski country and winter weather, a hard top, and customizing it that way. We talked to a client in Orlando, and he wanted something large. I don't know if anyone of you have been in a 4-door Land Rover Defender. The back room, the back seat is not built for for anyone. It doesn't have a lot of room, leg room, and it's hard to get in. Due to, I guess, the approach angle, I would say, based on the way you have to move your head in and get into the seat, you kind of have to do it all in one motion. There isn't a lot of, I can step up and then slide in. And so we built them, we're still talking to them, but a 130 station wagon. So it's, you know, that, and they have that today. But my point is that we build, you know, he wanted to get in the car effortlessly, his kids. And I said to him, well, it's not a 110 wagon that you want. We can build you, they never were built, and we can build them a 130 wagon, which looks the same, but is longer. Thus, it gives us room to play with where the seat position is in the second row. And so we love that. You know, when, again, it doesn't change, it's a Defender, but it serves their purpose of children that need, and I think one of his children needed extra help getting in the car and could more easily approach the car and use it and feel comfortable in it. And so that's what we're trying to do. We're not trying to build, you know, I look at some of our competitors' websites, and then they're great cars, but you build, you know, you kind of pick a menu. And I think that's easy for a lot of people. That's, you know, in some ways we give maybe too many choices, but I'd rather help that family that needs a child, that has a child that needs extra time and extra help to get in the car and be able to get in that car and be a part of that than mass producing a car for someone.
So I have to follow up with the obvious question. What kind of budget do I need to purchase one of your vehicles?
Dan wants
have
one.
you build one?
Dan wants one.
Oh, I know I could never afford one, but I'm just curious, just because everyone's going to be thinking that. I mean, you see the car, it's amazing looking. It's obviously not inexpensive, but what are we talking?
So for the 6x6, around 400,000, and then for a 90 and a 110, which are just smaller variants, and I can explain them, but around $200,000 to $400,000, and that really is driven by quality of finishes, both interior and exterior. I won't tell you what the paint on that cost. It was not painting, paint.
Oh,
as a noun.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. So the finishings are huge. The engine is huge. The engines are not cheap. Transmissions are not cheap. So again, the choice of the drivetrain, and then obviously on that car, the extra axle.
Well, and you were telling me on the paint, it's an Aston Martin?
It's Aston Martin Xenon Gray.
And it's beautiful. So I could see why it was expensive.
We know why Aston Martin paint's not going to be cheap, right?
No.
You could, you know, in fact, this is one of those things I want to say, guess. You'd never guess. It would floor you.
How many gallons did it take to paint that?
I think 2. I forget.
Two of color.
Two color. And then clear, you probably got a couple layers of clear on there, I would imagine.
3 layers of
I
clear.
think there's
Bill
3 or
put
4
on it.
coats. Yeah.
Oh, wait, I forgot to mention the first thing that I was drawn to when you guys pull up, the carbon fiber hood.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So that was your idea, Cole? How did somebody makes that?
Yeah. So while we were in England 2019, we went to a massive Land Rover show, and one of the suppliers there had one like on their car that they were showing. I was like, well, where did you guys get this?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, we make a handful of them each year. And we're like, we have to get that done.
Yeah, on that color, that build,
Yes.
that because usually carbon fiber to me is like, okay, you just slap a bunch of, and you said it's not a wrap kind of thing, you know. But that's the kind of connotation carbon fiber has gotten lately,
Yeah.
whereas people just slap it on anything for no. I put it on my Camry. I'm like, dude, why'd you do that? But on a build like that, you're like, okay, there's, you know, it's got this kind of like military, classy feel to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the carbon to me is like, adds that little bit of touch, but I didn't notice it right away because they blended into the color a
Yeah,
little
it
bit.
fits nicely.
Yeah, so I was like, oh,
yeah.
that's a nice touch. So when I was knocking it, because I was exactly trying to find out, is this real carbon or not? Obviously, you know, I don't want to be rude, but yeah,
But you can't be the first person who's wondered if that's what it was.
Yeah, because
Yeah, they do.
you know it's
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah,
It's,
yeah.
It's,
Right.
It's,
Well, you got, when walking around and looking at it, there's so many nice subtle touches. And one thing, the spotlights at the top, fog
Mhm.
lights, the way you incorporated them into the roof, beautiful. The winch. I'm trying to think of. I'm trying to go back. What other
I'm trying to
There
think
were
about how much that paint costs right now.
the
I'm
dual
going back to that.
exhaust coming out the back? It was really
I want to
nice.
take a guess. I want to take a guess because I know somebody's listening right now going, oh, you know, it's like, is it a House of Color paint or is it a factory paint? Factory paint. So it's got to be
I'm going to go 30,000.
in paint.
For 2 gallons of paint.
Yeah, it was only because you built it up so much.
Okay.
I threw it out there.
You went high. You went way high.
I figured I would.
I
was gonna
That's what
say,
was
I
doing.
built it too much then.
I was going to say 8,000.
You're closest.
8,000.
Okay, 8,000. Okay.
Yeah.
I figured Aston Martin, and he's like talking about how expensive it is. I'm like, shit, it's got to be really
Yeah.
expensive.
So you just
Yeah.
went straight for the
I
gusto.
went for the gusto.
That
Totally.
was like how much to replace a Veyron tire?
Yeah.
30,000.
Do you guys ever get customers that just want you to do a original restoration to the way it was exactly from the factory, like no aftermarket, like I want it like when I bought it off the showroom floor kind of thing?
Yeah, so that's the one we just finished. It was a NAS spec, and he just wanted it back to original. He's had it, close to 20 years now,
Mhm.
I think. And just being a New England car, it was just completely rotting out. So we replaced his bulkhead, the chassis, the rear tub, the doors, and a few other pieces just because they were all rotted out, and we just restored it completely back to factory spec.
Wow.
do you enjoy that, or do you enjoy doing what you guys do more?
I think
gonna
I
put
know.
you on the
I
spot
think I
here.
know. I think I know.
I was gonna say, I like building like the 6x6
I
more,
figured
but
you would.
yeah,
But
You're a power guy, you're an engine guy, right?
yeah.
Yeah. So have you guys only put the outside of the Land Rover engines? Are there any other engines that you guys have put into these things other than the LS or?
Cummins, and then just
Yeah,
the
Dan likes
factory
that.
diesels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
We were looking into doing electric, and I think we'll end up doing that soon.
Someone's got to be
But,
yeah.
bound to want one.
Yeah.
You know, probably in California, maybe Montecito. Someone saw your car in Montecito and was like,
Oh,
"Hey, I'll
maybe.
take an electric one of those."
The surprise for us, so we were asked a number of times, and I always said it's not when, it's, or not if, it's when. So we did some research, and we got very close with the company. But the problem with the net price tag was I could buy 3 LS engine transmissions.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it was kind of like the conversation I had with my roofer the other day, between asphalt and metal. I could buy 2.5 roofs, and frankly, I'm not living 2.5 roofs that are guaranteed for 30 years each. So, I started saying, well, why am I going to spend that money? And we felt, and we tested it with some clients, that we started getting the feedback of, you can put 3 LS engines in before, I kind of pay the same amount as the electric.
Mm-hmm.
And, and I think people feel that they want to do that, but we're just not seeing people putting the both together, willing to spend the money and feeling compelled to do it.
And especially in a vehicle like that. I mean, I get it when somebody throws it in like their C10 pickup and it's kind of a cool little, novelty thing. But you get in a vehicle like that and there's kind of like this visceral thing, where you have like this balance of luxury, but also I want to hear the engine. There's like, driving it, because obviously driving electric, especially off-road or whatever, it's a different feeling. I'm not saying it's better or worse. It's just different when you have an electric powertrain versus a gas powertrain, or,
Yeah, I would think if we do one, or I should say again, when we do one, I think it's going to be a very standard 2-door, 4-door station wagon. Maybe it has a soft top, but it's for a family that's not going to travel far in it. And my guess too is they already have electric cars.
Yeah.
This is not going to be their first one.
Yeah.
But that's me. I don't know.
Yeah.
So we
Maybe
have
it'll be
been
the pink
asked.
one. Maybe it'll be the
Pink electric.
Pink electric Defender.
The Barbie. The
Don't
Barbie
forget the
version.
cowhide interior. Don't forget the cowhide interior.
That does.
It's got to be the Barbie version for Margot Robbie or something, right?
Oh man, how much fun are you guys having?
Oh, I'm having a blast.
You've
I can
keyed
tell.
in on a couple of these even before we started recording
Yeah.
about family and
Yeah.
life is short and how gratifying it was to build a car for a family that had needs for a child to get into the car and stuff like that. And I just realized something. You guys are doing father and son projects for your clients. You guys are building like what a father and son would build in their garage for
Yes.
themselves. You're building for your clients. You're
Yes.
off. I've never really heard of that. I mean, I've heard of father and sons working together, but they've got staff, they've got things, they turn into a business. And yes, is a business for you guys, but
Yeah.
it sounds like that has like there's much more meaning to you because you don't have to do this. It sounds like you want to do this, and you're spending time with your son. And
We do. I haven't had any of those life-altering moments, thankfully. But it's something that it's fulfilling.
yeah,
And I don't know how it sounds to others when I say that, but it has a whole slew of meaning to me. And I enjoy every day that we do this. I think it's fair to say we're closer than we have been, and we're a very close family.
Mhm.
It's not like, our children always come home for holidays and we see everyone, we get together, but there's a level of bond now. I don't always care for it because it usually is some 4-letter words or some colorful words are now directed at me as a father would never be acceptable to me. But it's a blast. We get to travel like we are today. We get to share our story, and we really enjoy it. I think we could have taken the business a few different ways, and right now I think it's where it should be.
yeah.
And it's more fun than brewery.
Well, easy.
I don't-
It
yeah, that-
depends how you.
Or is that coming next? So it went Manz Brewery right
Maybe.
next door to Manz Motor
Or
Company.
distillery. He said distillery, possibly.
Yeah.
Could
We
be
like
that
the
too.
hard
Could
stuff
be that.
too.
Yeah.
But Cole, how is it working with your dad?
It's great. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you guys ever kind of butt head? I know people are wondering.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
So I don't mean to
Flamethrower.
well, yeah, flamethrower,
You're gonna
but I'm gonna
flamethrower
do
the
it
whole thing?
because
Okay.
I know I would ask this question if I'm listening to this. I know I would ask this question: who could put together a better Defender?
Ooh. Oh, that was
Wow,
easy.
it's easy.
Yeah, it was
way
easy.
easy.
It's because of all the special training he's been getting on the
On the
that
paint.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, no, Cole knows these cars, and I do too, but he knows these cars to a level, and that's why we decided to specialize. We get a question a lot of, well, why not others? Broncos, Scouts, and Land Cruisers, Toyota Land Cruisers, and we like the fact that we know these cars inside and out. I'm not trying to be a general restoration business. No offense, but that's not what we wanted to do. And I think that was influenced a lot by the two brothers that we met in England, and they've been doing this, and that's all they do. And so we enjoy, doing that, specializing in. But Cole knows these cars inside and out, and is always listening to them, saying, "Ooh, that doesn't sound right."
Got the ear. Yeah.
Things like that.
So when you guys butt heads a little bit, is it over something creative?
No, it's
Okay.
usually something that's not right.
Okay.
It's hasn't gone.
Well, there's only two people you could point fingers at, right?
Well, that's
Yeah,
that's the problem.
Can't
Yeah.
blame it on it. Can't find a tool. Whose fault is that, right? Yeah.
Trust me.
Where's the 10 millimeter socket?
Exactly.
Yeah, you had it last.
Where was it?
So, your business, saying that you don't do restorations in general, and you're focused on the Defender. You feel like that's part of the success of your business is being niche, being the Defender guys, being instead of trying to do things in general. Because I'm starting to see this not just on the car world, but everywhere, especially on our social medias, is that they always say, everybody's be niche, be focused on something because people want
and get good at it
and stop, don't go chasing waterfalls, basically, trying to please the masses because you're never going to please everybody. Instead, just please the people that it seems that you guys, I can't get no more niche than Defenders from this year. You guys aren't doing 2024 Defenders, obviously.
Yeah.
So it seems to me that part of the success of your business, I'm just guessing here, is because you guys focus only on those things. Maybe that's a reason why you've been this successful.
Interesting question. I don't, obviously I don't know because we didn't take the other path. I do know it quickly became apparent to us that we wanted to focus on a car. We wanted to be the best at it. We didn't want to do it. We wanted to excel in it. And it, I guess, listening to that, people will say, well, aren't you smart enough to know two cars? And so at the risk of making myself sound like an idiot, no.
Yeah.
We know everything that, and not everything because we're learning every day, but we know a lot of what these cars take, how to build them, what fits in them, what does not. And really for our clients, most importantly, if there's a problem, how to fix it and where a problem might be. And we just find that level of expertise we enjoy. We've developed a supply chain around that. Our craftsmen, our painter and our interior gentlemen know exactly what to do with these cars. It might sound funny, but you've got to get used to a Defender. The parts are different. A paint person that's used to painting perfectly flat body panels, you're not going to paint one. Someone who's used to doing elaborate upholstery work with thicker materials we were talking about earlier, you're not going to get to do it. And so we've always been the type that want to know everything about something as deep as we can get. And so that back to, I think maybe the original question is that led us down the path. I don't think, in fact, I know that's what drives us. It's not, are we selling? Are we wildly successful? Are we doing the most cars? We do it for, selfishly, our clients that want these and want the best. And frankly, we enjoy it. So, God willing, I'm in a position that we can do that. And I think it comes through in our quality.
That's cool.
Yeah.
They're getting a signature car every time you guys put one out. Since you guys are literally the only ones that touch it.
Yes.
Outside of your upholstery and a painter, but who are really part of your group. I think that's pretty awesome.
It is.
And I think they appreciate that.
Yeah. I would. Who wouldn't want their own custom builder and custom service department? Basically. I mean,
have tools will travel if something breaks.
Right?
Right?
That's what you're paying for. I think that's quality and value right there.
Yeah.
Well, we've found, and we got feedback that a lot of people can't find people to fix them.
Yeah.
They don't want to touch them.
Yeah.
They're not easy cars. If you don't know what you're doing, even though conceptually they're quite simple, actually, they're very difficult in practicality to put together and take apart and put together. So, that's just part of the package you get, that you don't have to worry about that either.
Yeah. I like that.
Any other questions for the Manz before they go back to New Hampshire and where it's cold and they just had snow?
I was going to say one other thing. Tell us a little bit about, what's it like to have a small business in New Hampshire, especially something so niche, tightly focused and so on, and the car culture in New Hampshire. What is that? Because we're Californians. What do we know about New Hampshire, right?
I'd say overall, just like New England, the car culture is very good. Going to a bunch of like concourse shows and all the collector shows and stuff. People really appreciate the Defenders. You see quite a lot of them near the coasts and stuff, but yeah, it's good.
I think what I know about that part of the country in the car world is what you see on like Wayne Carini. Isn't his shop based up in that part of the country?
It is. We see him all the time.
Yeah. So you see his show, and then he takes us to
You don't see a lot
shows
of
in that area.
a lot of Hondas with fart cans in the neighborhood.
There's some, yeah.
No offense
that's a
to a
Southern
Honda
California thing. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it seems car culture is very strong, and we see people of all ages that participate in these shows, and it's amazing the variety of cars that we see too. We tend to because of our price point, we tend to be at, like Cole was saying, concourse shows, and so we're our experience with that is a little skewed towards those types of larger shows and more the bigger gatherings. But we do go to car shows, and we see a variety of cars. We usually see more muscle and sport. We don't, at least from what we've seen, we don't. I actually like being in here. We see a lot of different cars, and I don't see a lot of low riding cars.
I was going to ask about that. I was curious because low riding, if I'm not mistaken, started here in Southern California, like after the war.
It did.
Yeah,
it
and
did. It's spreading all over the country, but it's definitely heavily based, or biased out here.
Yeah.
But there are some East Coast guys. It's just harder too because lowrider guys don't want to go out in the wintertime. And
well, I was going to say that I don't, and I don't want to sound stupid, but our roads are just not in shape for a car that travels that
True.
low.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Right now even though it's starting to warm up, the roads are a mess because of all the frost heaves during the winter and the freezing thawing cycles. There's sand everywhere, so you're going to get your car sandblasted. It's bad enough when you're up a foot, much less being down right at the action.
Right.
So, we don't. I don't see that. But it's not to say it's not around. We're not in every car show. We do tend to focus only, really because of time. Yeah. Again, we go back to. Yeah, it's cool that it's only two of us. It's only two of us,
Right.
Yeah.
So we're doing everything.
Yeah.
Like, clean the toilet and build cars.
Yeah.
And so we don't have a lot of time, unfortunately, to go to a lot of car shows outside of the ones that we're participating in.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever shown a car at SEMA or brought a car to SEMA?
We have not. We have not done a car show west of the Mississippi.
Okay.
Well,
Came to West of Tulsa.
This is the first. This is exactly. This is the first actually car that we've shipped out here.
Oh, wow.
To the West Coast.
Yes.
Wow.
well,
Interesting.
Scott will campaign it through all the cars and
Yeah.
coffee and car
That-
shows while it's here.
Scott Rouleau.
So
is
it
the one who
will
connected all
be at
this
a
up.
car
That's
show
right.
soon.
So
Yeah.
we may be out here more often, but we have, because we're a small company, we have focused our time, money, and effort on the East Coast.
No, it makes sense.
I feel like there's a lot of people like you guys who are thinking about or wanting to do what you guys have done. I think it's very inspiring. You quit or retire your day job and say, we're going for it. And I'm going to do it with my son or my daughter or whoever. What advice would you give to somebody that's thinking about it or wants to do it and feels like what you guys are doing is something that they want to do too? What would advice that you give to them to help encourage them if they wanted to do that?
Guess for me, it would be don't be afraid to ask people like questions. Because I've asked tons of people, just like if it comes to like rebuilding differentials or like transmissions and stuff, so many people are willing to help and teach and like guide you through some things that you have questions with. And that helped me a lot, actually being able to like build the cars from the ground up like that for the certain things I didn't know at the time, how to do those things. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think for any young person, and we were talking about the trades kind of dying. So many people we meet are willing to help Cole. And it's not to say they say, David, go away. It's not, they're rude to me. But you do see that natural pull of adults wanting to transfer the knowledge to someone, and I think they're just hungry to do it. So Cole gets, Cole, rebuilds our differentials, all of the axle components, and we've had some very nice people just keep doing it with him and work with him and do that. And they were more than happy to share the knowledge. And I'm not sure he's ever been, declined the call. They pick up the phone. They want to talk to them.
That's awesome.
That's great.
I think that's great advice. Ask a question. The wealthiest man I've ever met in my lifetime said the smartest people in the world ask the most questions. And I thought, I'll never forget that, because how else are you going to know if you don't ask, right?
Yeah. And it takes, and you learn by experience. And unless you have a ton of experience, you're not going to have the answer. And, you can look online, and it's a great resource. But, and maybe this is just the old school part of me talking, but having that conversation with people, we talk to everyone we see in those shops. And in fact, we met the owner of the one of the transmission shops that we work with, and Cole and him just started talking, and he doesn't even work there anymore. His nephew runs the business, and so there is just that would be the advice that I give, and I think that's spot on. For folks that aren't as young, strap in. It's not easy.
Yeah.
We sold our first car. It wasn't literally overnight, but it was very easy. It's not easy. It ceased to be easy. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of faith in that you can do it. And I do value people's feedback that say we have, and I thank all of you for that. Our cars are, the quality of the car, because I know in the end we will be fine. If I had a crappy product, then I'd be worried, because then I'd have to be a real good marketer or salesman.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm not. So I would say that it's hard. It's really hard work. And I would be remiss to not say a partner, wife, in my case, my wife, just always being there and understanding, because it isn't easy. It's long nights. It can be long days. In fact, one time she said to me, we were getting a car ready. I'm not sure if it was a show or client, but she said she felt like a widow. There was no one in the house but her and the dogs.
Oh.
Cole and I were sleeping in the shop, getting this car done. And I think it was 2 straight weeks.
You had a deadline. You had to hit it.
We had to hit it. And damn it, we were hitting it.
Yeah.
And, now I remember the situation. Yes, we were, damn it, we were hitting it. And, but having, someone like that just is understanding, because it can be very trying on patience and emotions.
Yeah.
So,
And I can relate to that. This would not happen west of Tulsa if it wasn't for Beth agreeing to some crazy ideas along the way.
I agree.
Yeah.
Thank you,
no,
Beth.
I agree with that completely. So if somebody wants to get in touch with you,
yes.
go to your website.
So we there are a few ways. It's manzmotorcompany.com, and that is also Manz Motor Company on Instagram.
And it's MANZ.
MANZ.
Right.
Yep, Motor Company, all one word. And then feel free to call me, 603-213-1308.
All right. Well, we really appreciate you coming in.
Oh,
I know it was a
we're
long
thrilled.
trip. You guys have gone through a lot to get here.
Yeah.
Snow, pneumonia, trucks that don't show up on time,
Canceled show.
canceled
Canceled
show. They came all the way out here to California for a show, and
A great purpose.
Canceled.
A great purpose,
But
but
that's
it
okay.
was canceled.
Our crazy California weather.
Yes.
had to join us. though.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, David, Cole Manz. We really appreciate you guys making
Yes,
the long
thank you
trip
so
to come
much.
out here from
Thank you.
Yeah,
New
thank you.
Hampshire.
Well,
So,
we thank you. This was a real treat.
all right.
We enjoy it.
And we'll be looking for the 6x6 rolling down Highway 101.
It will
that'd
be
be
on
fun.
101 and
Yeah.
probably Montecito or Santa Barbara all week.
Yeah.
Fun.
Maybe at a
All
local
right.
Cars and Coffee soon near
Yeah,
you.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Thanks again, guys.
Safe travels, guys.
All right.
Thank you.
Don't forget our
Thank you.
tip line, westoftulsa.com. You can fill that out. We'd love to have you in studio. It's working. We've actually got people contacting us now on the tip line. You guys know that, right?
Yeah,
We have somebody coming in maybe next week
Yes.
who
We love
contacted
it.
us
We
from
love it.
Oregon.
we love
So,
it.
yeah,
We're going to
it's
keep
it's
hammering
working.
that. We're
Yeah.
going to keep hammering it.
Follow, like, subscribe, and we have our YouTube.
Channel.
Thank you. There's a delay on that.
Wake
one.
up, Gabe.
I was looking at your face. That's why. Sorry.
So I'm
Mesmerizing.
throwing them off.
Yeah.
All right.
Hypnotic beauty, CJ. Hypnotic beauty.
And thanks for watching and listening on whatever you listen and watch us on. We appreciate it, and we'll see you west of Tulsa.